the rest of the year
Yeah.
is just beginning. So if my internet cuts out, that might be the reason. We'll just see what happens.
Good luck, sir.
I
Enjoy
already
the
feel
bumps.
like internet. Hey, you're watching Popcast, a crowd-sponsored yo-yo show. Huge shout out to John Anderson and Taka from Spin Gear and the rest of my sponsors over on patreon.com. And today we are following up with a good friend of ours. Happy New Year, Ed. How are you?
I am wonderful. Thank you, Doc. It is 2023, new year, new me, so to speak.
Yeah, and it is January 4th, 2023. The last conversation you and I had was January 5th, 2022.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's the last time we've talked. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I've been obviously following you on the Instagram. I double tap the images and a little heart appears, and that fills me with joy.
We appreciate it.
We talked back then about your 1 year, one yo-yo project. Can you describe that project to us, just
Yes.
in case we never heard of it?
Sure. Well, first of all, in 2012, 10, 11 years ago now, I kind of committed to just throwing one single wooden fixed axle yo-yo made for me by my then sponsor, SPY, Saturn Precision Yo-Yos, from Canada. And, I did it in 2012, and I personally, got a lot out of it and really enjoyed that process, strange though it was. And then after that, unexpected, we were able to create kind of a sequence of production versions of that same yo-yo, which we called the A or the EH or whatever you want to say, but EH. And we did that every year. I think with one exception, we released a production run of these yo-yos, and people got into it and enjoyed throwing them. And so for the 10th year, kind of in commemoration of it, I decided I wanted to try and do it again and kind of go back to that well. And so Colin Leland from Timber, who had made all the production model EH yo-yos, made this one called the Decade with an EH in it too. There it is right there. Yeah, that's awesome that you've got one. And it kind of brought together a lot of the different elements that had evolved throughout the course of this thing's 10-year life. And it was, the one that I decided to throw for a year straight. And so every day I only played this one specific yo-yo. And it took some hits, it took some knocks. It's got some pretty significant damage. You can see there's some pretty gnarly chunks out of the side of it, and like the
Ed, you're supposed to
inside,
keep your toys in their boxes. You're not supposed to open them up and actually use them.
I know. I missed that memo to my chagrin. The one that really started to get me near the end was I've got a really gnarly one, kind of right in the response area.
Okay, how does that happen? Did you drop the half?
What happened was I actually washed the yo-yo in my jeans. So
Ed, you're killing
me. I know. Not only did I wash my jeans, I also had the yo-yo in my pocket, and so I know. So when I took it out of the washer, and I realized it, I didn't put it through the dryer, but all the same, and I mean the thing was completely saturated. And so I took it with me to school and kind of tried to I take apart the halves, but it wouldn't. It was kind of like bending. The wood was kind of so wet, it was soggy and bending. And I was afraid I was going to just completely trash the halves, which anyway I did regardless, because after the thing dried out, the walnut swelled so much compared to the oak halves that it was completely inextricable. And so I ended up having to drill it out. So I had to take a drill and break up the walnut axle, in the halves itself, to try to kind of pry out little sections of it. And so during that process, I got a lot of dings on the outside of the yo-yo, and I got that massive kind of chunk out of the middle. But fortunately, incredibly, it still plays really smooth. I mean, for all its damage. So luckily that wasn't too horrible an issue, but it was definitely an exercise in perseverance, both for me and for the yo-yo.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of soggy yo-yos, December 31st last year was the second rainiest day in SF's history. And right now, the beginning of a storm that's supposed to be even worse is happening. So if the internet goes out or if it looks kind of shoddy, my apologies to anyone watching. So I was going to ask you if the yo-yo survived. It's still like when did that happen? When did that series of accidents kind of happen?
I think the washing occurred in like maybe September. So it was relatively late in the yo-yo's, career, so to speak. But
Yeah.
other, dings. I mean, I'm not delicate with my toys, and I did not like approach this year with the attitude that like, oh, I'm gonna like, I gotta, be real careful in the first few months of the year so I can make the thing last. I had potential backups. I had a spare one of these that's still fresh. I had the prototype that Karan had sent me. So I knew that I had kind of eject buttons that I could use if this thing completely failed. But I mean, I've walked a dog on pretty much anything, and I'm a teacher, so I'm like always kind of like handing my yo-yo to like some like second grader or whatever, and like seeing them like kind of whack it on the ground or throw it in the dirt or whatever. And luckily, Colin makes a really good hardy yo-yo, and it's oak anyway, so it held up okay. But yeah, I probably dodged some bullets with this guy making it this long. I love how new yours looks. It's lovely.
I'll sell you mine, Ed, if you need a new.
I got one like that. It's okay.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of cool, like looking at mine and looking at what could be if I, used it just all the time. Like the colors on yours are great. I mean, it kind of reminds me, I guess, of this one, which did get a little more play,
Yeah.
and a little more rounded, but still not banged and not missing any chunks or anything.
Yeah, it's funny because like a lot of like your sweat and like your oils, like your actual like self goes into the yo-yo, kind of like metaphorically and kind of esoterically, like oh your spirit or whatever, but like really like just like you put some stuff in it and it gets kind of gross and grimy, but like that gross and grimy stuff is also like you so you can't hate on it too much.
People always ask me for advice on maintenance. I would like to hear your wooden yo-yo maintenance tips.
Yeah. Well, I had several axles to begin the year, so I definitely went through probably like 5 or 6 axles, but not actually. I don't think I changed in the first like 4 months I had it. I got stuck with the same walnut axle. But the big thing, especially with these wood thread yo-yos, is having a good kind of methodical process for making sure it doesn't fly apart. Because if you're, when you throw it down, these yo-yos are all wood. So when you take it apart and you unscrew it, like the wood axle, itself, it's threaded. It doesn't have like a steel axle connecting the halves at all. So that's prone to, over the lifespan of the yo-yo, failing and coming apart, which it did more frequently, at the end of the year. But as long as I kind of am really conscientious about how I put it together and make sure I kind of brace one side of it, usually I can go with a finger, and then or fingernail, and then the other side, and set the gap just the way I like it, and then I kind of over crank it.
Yeah,
I give it a lot of juice to make sure it stays. That's the
scary.
thing.
That's a scary thing to do, but that's better than the yo-yo flying off.
Exactly. Right. And I think having a couple of axles sitting around makes me a little bit more willing to be kind of courageous in cranking it. But I've certainly done enough, failed Raider mods where like you over crank and over tighten the yo-yo and it was like totally unplayable after that. So yeah, I want to avoid that for sure. The other thing is, using string that's going to be it's going to play well over time. Zipline, which is my string sponsor, sent me a ton of their cotton KOT-N blend string, which is really tremendous for fixed axle and specifically for wooden yo-yos. And they take a long time to break in, but after they do, they last really, really well. So I really love using that particular type of string with this yo-yo. And I find that it works really well in concert with these walnut axles. In terms of other maintenance tips, though, I mean, like I don't use any kind of like beeswax or anything like that. Old like Russell yo-yos or some of the Tom Kuhn yo-yos, you could use like Vaseline intensive care lip therapy to kind of like cure the axles and kind of smooth out any little burrs. But these walnut axles are so smooth, it's unnecessary. So I don't really worry too much about it. I just kind of, put it in my pocket and grab it periodically, and that seems to be enough.
The yo-yo survived. You shared some of your advice for folks. The thing I'm wondering, I actually haven't checked your Instagram yet this year. What ended up being the first yo-yo?
The first yo-yo that I threw was actually which was the last bearing yo-yo that I threw previously, was the end. Part two. Yeah, actually, it wasn't this one. Oh, it was this one. It was the unknown one. I thought I had the other in my pocket, but yeah, number 11 of the unknown end, part two, which I just love. I mean, I really loved the Bapezilla. I really loved the Eats It. I loved the end because I played one at like, I don't know, maybe MER, but I never owned one, and so I was so excited when you guys did this. So that was my first foray back. I used that. It was funny because my son was doing a midnight like trail run, and so I had to go with him. So I brought a bunch of he opened my my yo-yo case cabinet with the key that he had hidden for the last year, a couple hour early, and he pulled a couple of yo-yos for me to use, and I kind of pointed at them like, give me that one and give me that one. And so I had this one. I had I had a no jive, which is really like one of the very few yo-yos that I had really had missed throwing, and also the one drop panorama, and then a new one that I got from Few and Far Between, which was the Tai G2, which is like a little yin yang yo-yo, which is really, really cool looking and actually plays really great too. But those were the first that I kind of did, and it was really, really weird. It was really strange to be out there at the Whitewater Center at night, everybody saying Happy New Year, and I'm like throwing the end, and it's and I'm trying to remember old picture tricks and get the feeling of having this. It's very surreal to have, to remember how it is to throw a bearing yo-yo, but viscerally to be disconnected from it and then to kind of come back to it. It's a very strange feeling. At first it's unpleasant, and then you kind of get back to it. You're okay, yeah, all right,
dude. I can totally imagine. It's you're out in the cold, your kid is running and several other kids are doing their marathon, and I can imagine you stringing 4 yo-yos to one hand, throwing them, finger spin, and doing 4 DNA binds. Yeah, it's just first throw after.
I should have done that. I'm sure that would have worked just like you're describing too. I'm sure it would have 100%. Boom, take that, 2023 in the books. Yeah, no. I think it was much more tentative and probably much more stilted and not very fluid at all, but it was fun.
So this is the first time you've done a 1 year 1 yo-yo, but now that you've done it this time, do you feel like your style has changed or will change for what you do for the rest of the year? Do you think it'll change the way you kind of throw or play?
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, first of all, in 2012 when we did this, a lot of the tricks that I've that I threw this year, were developed between 2012 and now. Throughout 2012, a lot of the stuff I was doing was just 1A with a wood yo-yo, and that's fun too. But now that modern responsive or 0A or whatever you want to call it has kind of come into its own, there's a lot more of just a trick vocabulary and lexicon and repertoire that you can kind of lean into. So I had much more kind of a trick vocabulary that was specifically, ideal for this kind of yo-yo going into this year. So that was in some ways maybe easier. I definitely was able to kind of push into that kind of 0A territory, and there was a lot of inspiration out there with other people playing with that style that I could kind of see other tricks and try other tricks and kind of get other ideas. It wasn't so insular an experience as it was in 2012. It wasn't so lonely in that regard. But yeah, I think that in terms of where I am now and how it influenced my tricks, the reason that I did it to begin with was to kind of reconnect with myself as a player, and maybe instead of overlaying a lot of activity or filters or like just kind of I tend to like just add a bunch of stuff through different aspects of my life when I'm not doing so good. And this was the opposite. This was kind of stripping things away to kind of get to a more simplified version of something that I spend a lot of time doing and love doing. And so by taking away all of these, all of the variety of yo-yos and all of the choice, and also kind of to rely on a more primitive tool, it kind of strips away a lot of the noise and kind of allowed me to kind of reapproach it and kind of come to my own tricks and kind of see them maybe a little bit more authentically. So I mean, I definitely have like an appreciation for the experience in that regard, and I think that it did filter into my tricks. But I don't know if I don't know where I'm going to go from here. I don't know if it's going to if I'm going to throw the same way or with the same attitude this year now that I have infinite variety, basically.
Well, Ed, I appreciate your time. Thank you so much for doing this follow-up video. Congratulations on 1 year, one yo-yo part 2.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'm excited to play with whatever. Hopefully y'all keep making the A's.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, Colin's on hiatus for now. Colin has made a lot of wooden yo-yos, and I think that he's taking a well-deserved break from that particular craft for right now. And I think we'll always be open to kind of coming back to it. But I think it had a really spectacular, unexpectedly wonderful run. And I think where it goes from here, we'll just kind of let it go naturally, and we'll just see. But thank you so much, Doc, for your support and for having me on these last couple of times. It's great just to see your Instagram and see the stuff that you bring to Modern Responsive these past few years, and it's always great to talk to you.
Right on, dude. We'll talk to you later.
All right. Rock.